Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown. I have gotten a lot of comments on the previous video I did on the attempted assassination of Donald Trump during the rally. Uh, my and my analysis that I did not believe this was a lone wolf shooting of just some psychopathic 20-year-old, although he was a psychopathic 20-year-old, but that the way he was able to accomplish the crime seemed unlikely considering who the Secret Service was protecting. There were only two major people that the Secret Service would have to absolutely be sure do not get gunned down at this point in time in American history, and that would be President Joe Biden and his opposition, Donald J. Trump. There's only two people, and if you can't protect those two people, there's something really amiss. Now, during this video, I want to talk about three things because people are saying, what do you think is going to happen now? Because there's going to be a congressional hearing. They're going to try to get to the bottom of this. Probably not. So I'm going to talk about three things in this video. So please do hang in to the end. First, why do I think they're actually not going to do any kind of true investigation of what happened, and why this is just all going to eventually just fade away. Two, what other things have we learned recently about this crime that make little sense when it comes down to this was just a lone wolf guy who decided, hey, here's an opportunity, I'm going to take it, and the Secret Service failed dismally. And three, what do I think would have happened had Donald Trump been killed, as he should have been, considering yeah, he should have been, because that was a good shot, and if he hadn't done this, he would have been dead. What would have happened then, and why do I think it would have benefited both sides of the political spectrum? And when I go into this, I want to say this one more time. I'm a criminal profiler. My channel is all about crime scene analysis. It is not about politics. I'm not saying I don't have my own views on politics. I'm just saying this is not what the channel is about. But it's very interesting a lot of times how politics can play such a part in our history about crime, or how crime can be a part of political history, whichever way you want to look at it. Just because people are high up in politics doesn't mean they're not involved in criminal activities, especially when it comes down to maintaining power. That's the way things work, and has worked since the world began. I mean, politics has always been around. It's a matter of there's always people who will get in power and they want to keep that power. Sometimes they do good things during that time they're in power. Sometimes they do bad things. Sometimes there are bad people who do good things. Sometimes good people do bad things. That's the way human beings work. So I want to help you understand things in a more realistic lens, as opposed to jumping into conclusions or jumping. People say, oh, you went to a conspiracy right away, Pat Brown. No, I'm looking at evidence. And so this is what I want you to see. I want you to see evidence and see what it could mean in the whole scheme of things. Okay, so let me just read you a little thing about what's supposedly about to happen as far as an investigation goes. This is the headline here is Hawley demands full-scale investigation by Congress into attempted assassination of President Trump. Today, U.S. Senator Josh Hawley sent a letter to the U.S. Senator Gary Peters calling on the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee chairman to immediately launch an investigation into the attempted assassination of former President Trump at a Pennsylvania rally yesterday. The HSGAC investigation must include public testimony, hearings, and robust oversight over the relevant federal departments as they respond to this assassination attempt. Sworn testimony must be heard from Alejandro Mayorkas, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle. Nothing should be classified or withheld from the public. Our prayers of President Trump, the family of the slain American, and the innocent civilians who were injured. We owe it to the victims and the American people to get to the bottom of what happened. The American people have questions and they deserve answers, he concluded. That's never going to happen. It is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Uh, because benefits neither side of the political spectrum at this point. Let's look at this little statement that was made. The bullet hit Trump, but it killed Joe Biden. All right. Yes, sort of that's what happened. The bullet that hit Trump helped President Trump out because he didn't die. Didn't help Joe Biden out because President Trump came out like this and Joe Biden was limping up into the plane, up the stairs, and hardly making it. And as soon as this all happened, CNN, which was surprising to me, came out and was basically saying that the former President Trump was going to win the election. Joe Biden was, he was a lost cause. And it was kind of shocking because CNN doesn't usually go this way. But that was I don't know who told them to say all that stuff, but they did. And it was very interesting. So at this point, the assassination attempt benefits Donald Trump. It did not go well for Joe Biden. If anybody was trying to help him out, it didn't go well. But I can't even say who was trying to help whom out. And I'm going to get into this whole thing because we always think of political groups as being 100% on this side or 100% on that side. But quite frankly, a lot of times they're in it together because they want to promote their political careers, because they're hooked up with whomever they're hooked up with, as far as things like the military-industrial complex or certain large, very powerful groups who want them to do their bidding. So it gets to be a very complex situation that people like to make simplistic, and it's just not that way, because human beings aren't that way. And people who go into politics, they are an interesting breed. Some do go in because their hearts are in the right place, but a whole lot of people go into it because they're very narcissistic and they love being in power and they love people loving them. I mean, this is just not everybody, but a whole bunch of people in politics. I once ran for mayor of my town, and they actually did commit a crime. They violated the Sunshine Law, and they took a whole bunch of ballots in the back room and found they all went for the other guy. and it was funny because I was told that unless I could prove it, it didn't matter. And I'm like, but why? The point of the Sunshine Law is that you stop people from doing this because you'll never be able to prove it. Well, anyway, the other guy won, and he was a total politician, and I rather suck at it. And part of me is just going, thank God I didn't get that job. I wouldn't have been very good at it. And although I didn't like him, I didn't like the way he dealt with things. He was definitely more of a mayor type than me. So, that's just a fact. So there are people go into politics for many reasons, and they also get caught up in a whole lot of stuff. So there is no exact line where this is one side and this is the other. There's like a little bit over here and a little bit over here and a whole bunch in the middle. All right. So I don't think we're going to see this whole thing breaking open. Why? Because it doesn't benefit either the Republicans or the Democrats at this point in time. We're going to see a whole lot of hogwash. And she's already doing a whole lot of the hogwash, shall we say. Like, well, it was too much of a slope on the roof. That's why we couldn't have any snipers up there, or any police officers up there, or any Secret Service people up there. And so this meme of a cow on the roof has been running around because what she said was ludicrous. And basically, she's just come to the point where she said, okay, I failed because we gave too much of the work to the local law enforcement. So she threw them under the bus. And we're still not hearing who the guy was who ran the actual Secret Service detail, the one who was on the ground, the one who did all the work to figure out what they should do. We haven't heard that. I don't know why. I find that interesting. Will it ever come out? It's a good question. And when will it come out, and by the time it comes out, everybody will be carefully prepared. So when we get to the congressional hearings, we're going to hear a whole lot about incompetence and very little about how it doesn't make sense. So she's refusing to quit, but she's also saying, oh, yes, there were mistakes made and we can learn from those mistakes. You think? Okay. And then everybody will roll on because that's the way things work. But let me tell you a little bit more about how things work in politics, just so you can sort of get an idea that a lot of times people who are not involved in politics, the regular folk, the hoi polloi, is that hoi polloi? What is it? Hoi polloi? Did I say hoi polloi? I don't edit. The hoi polloi. Now I got to look the crap up on my thing, so I'm not totally an idiot. Although now some people are saying, oh my God, that's the edit I'm going to put out there. Hoi polloi. Sorry, I don't know where the M came from. The hoi polloi. The regular folk, the citizenry. I should have gone with that. Sorry, I don't edit, so you get what you get. All right, so the regular people do not understand from here. They do not understand what happens up here. It's just something that's above most people's understanding. It is. Not just because of the media putting out whatever they put out, but just because we are not part of that level of society, shall we say. So it's like a turtle. Turtle's at the bottom of the tree. Doesn't understand what's happening at the top of the tree. How would a turtle know? They're on the ground, and what's up there they never see. They never are involved with. It's very hard to understand that stuff. How these people act and what they're doing and who they're acting with and all the machinations that go on up here. They don't know. So therefore, they believe a lot of stuff that comes out and just sort of guess this way or guess that way. And they're manipulated by whomever. And again, it could be either party, either political party. It could be the media. It could be the big people behind the media. We don't, it's a situation which is always problematic. Now, let me tell you a little example from history. Back in time, if you go back 2,000 years, there was the Ides of March. And in the Ides of March, this was when Julius Caesar had 60 of his supposed buddies attack him and kill him, brutally stab him to death. And who did that? Now, the story goes like this, that it's the people, he had pissed off the people around him, the way he was handling things, he was becoming a dictator, blah, blah, blah. So they offed him. And then his offspring, not his offspring, his designated person, who was a nephew, Octavian, would become the next head of the Republic. And so the story goes. And Mark Antony, who was his best buddy, his like second in command for many years, his friend, he just happened to be outside the Senate at the time, having a chit chat with some friends when all of this went down. And historians forever have stated this is what happened. Historians, academics, because this is a story that has been promoted for years and years and years, and everybody sort of buys it. Well, I was involved in a 2004 documentary for a Discovery Channel called The Mysterious Death of Cleopatra. And in that documentary, I was able to destroy the ridiculous myth for 2,000 years that Cleopatra used a cobra, poisonous snake, to kill herself, to commit suicide. I proved how it was impossible. I also said it was not a suicide, that she was actually murdered. She was in captivity by Octavian at that time, and she was murdered. Now, after that documentary came out, now mind you, before the documentary, every academic, and I swear every academic, who wrote books on Cleopatra, said she died by suicide by snake. After I did the documentary, it all shifted over to all of a sudden, Cleopatra didn't die by snake. Now, whose name was missing out of that change of heart? Not one of them mentioned me. Not one of them mentioned the documentary. All of a sudden, they all came up with this idea. Speaking of knives in the back, like Julius Caesar, yeah, I got him. I was left out of all of that. In spite of the fact I was the first one who ever went and said, hey, the snake theory makes no sense. So all of that has changed. If you read any book on Cleopatra today, she died not by a snake. She supposedly died by poisoning, which also is nonsense because when you're looking at crime scenes in history, politics, or just regular crimes around us today, facts are facts and evidence is evidence. There's zero evidence that she died of poisoning either. If you'd like to know more about that, by the way, I'll link this below. This is an 11-part series based on my book, The Murder of Cleopatra, and my work in Egypt, and what happened to Cleopatra, and everything that came around that, the history of Rome and Egypt, and how she ended up being in the situation she was. You can check that out. Now, but a myth was started that she died by snake bite. And who do you think put that myth out there? Octavian, who is now in control. Hey, but let's roll back. You know, when Julius Caesar got murdered by the Senate, essentially, and Mark Antony was standing outside, just happening to miss whatever happened inside. This is the story that's promoted. But I investigated this when I did the book on Cleopatra, and what I came up with is Mark Antony was behind that assassination. He was 100% behind the assassination. He had planned it. There's evidence he planned it, and he was standing outside so he wouldn't be labeled the guy who killed Julius Caesar. And then he went out afterwards saying, oh my God, my friend Julius Caesar was murdered. How sad. Now, he assumed he would become the next person in power. He was waiting for that. And he was getting middle-aged. He was tired of Julius Caesar just not getting out of the way. And he was frustrated. So he went forth with an assassination of Julius Caesar. Little did he know that Octavian, clever little guy that he was, beat him out in the long run. And he beat out Cleopatra as well. Octavian's a kind of a psychopathic goldfish, but man, he was actually a very, very good ruler of Rome for many, many decades. Got to give him credit for his abilities, even though nobody thought they thought he was such a wimpy dude, and they were wrong. He outplayed everybody, and he also got sort of lucky along the way. But to this day, nobody talks about Mark Antony being behind what happened to Julius Caesar. So now we have this case. Who was behind all of this stuff that went on? Was it the Democrat Party? Was it the Republican Party? Was it just a lone wolf? What was it? All right. I just want to go back to the actual things that were going on there. All right. So at 5:30 p.m., Crooks, the guy who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump, Crooks was first identified as a person of interest at 5:10 p.m. At 5:30, he was spotted with a rangefinder. At 5:32, he was spotted on the roof by Secret Service. At 5:52, at 6:02, Trump takes the stage. Wait, you've got a guy on the roof. Now I'm going to go to the pictures now. All right, over there. Now you've got Crooks on the roof over at the left. He's spotted by the Secret Service, which is on the roof. But this is 5:52. At 6:02, Trump takes the stage. We're talking 10 minutes later. You spot somebody on the roof. You don't know who that is, but you let Trump go on the stage. Who's responsible for Trump going on the stage? Secret Service. And then at 6:12, Crooks fires the first shots. Now, seriously. Only two major people in the nation you have to absolutely not screw up with. Two, President Joe Biden and his adversary, Donald Trump. And you allow this to happen. And I say allow because it's impossible that you didn't do the job. Now, she has said she threw local law enforcement under the bus. She says, well, they didn't do their job. All right. Let's go back to the buildings here. Secret Service counter snipers positioned on buildings close to the rally stage were aware of the AGR building. That's the one where the crook shot off of. Was being used as a staging area by law enforcement. Investigators believe that it would have led to a delay in the Secret Service sharpshooters' reactions because they had to first figure out whether the suspect was a threat. Or whether, basically they're saying because there were some snipers in the building from local law enforcement, it could have been them up on the roof. What, do you have a thing? Hey, we see a guy on the roof. Is it you? Apparently not. All right. No, they weren't on phones, but that's that's the only thing I could come up with. Maybe it's this. Anyway, this. So you got these two. Let's take a look at this again. So you got the sniper team north and the sniper team south. I'm a little confused about that because you got four guys essentially focused on the same exact area from the same exact angle, but you ignore the other angle, which is where the crook shot from. Why didn't you put one of your teams over there? Don't know. And do you only have 4 snipers? Couldn't you come up with 6 snipers? You're a Secret Service. You're protecting the 2 top people in the nation. You only got 4 snipers? Get out of here. You could have easily put 2 snipers on the other roof too. And then you would have covered that roof and all the roofs. But you didn't do it. Then this next thing. Where was this about? About the that when she threw the local law enforcement under the bus. Supposedly, like they asked if they would have a local law enforcement cruiser out there in front of the building. Seriously, that's what you do. You say, "How?" Well, and they said we asked them to put a cruiser out there, and they said they didn't have one. You can't make this stuff up. It's so bad. If you're going to have a building which you think could be a threat, there's no reason you can't position people on every edge of that building, every corner of that building. You don't need a car on one side. You put 4 police officers on that. If you're a Secret Service, you put your Secret Service men on that. You do not depend on local law enforcement. Believe me, I'm for local law enforcement. I think they do a fabulous job. I'm glad they should do what they do. But if you're protecting one of the 2 top people in the nation at a very critical time, you make sure you put your best Secret Service people on every area that could be a threat. And they didn't bother to do it. So get out of here. This is nonsense that I don't know that she knew what was going on the ground. I honestly do not know. That's why I keep saying, who the heck was in charge of that actual Secret Service detail? But there's all kinds of probably little connections and dots you can put together. But here's the problem, and why we're not going to find out about it. Everything is going to incompetence. Everything is incompetence. And that's what you can use very easily to get out of a thing called corruption. Wherever the corruption comes from, you use incompetence. Because, and a lot of people slam that at me. Well, don't you believe that they could have just been incompetent? Well, I've said that with a lot of police investigations, which I think have gone south with some incompetence. I agree with that. Recently in the United States, we've had a big blow up on a Karen Reed case, where many believe that Karen Reed, who was being charged with killing her police boyfriend up in Massachusetts, that she hit him with her car in a drunken rage. And although the evidence did support that, a huge bunch of people came out and said it was all about corruption, that there was a huge conspiracy theory in that area, and everybody was involved. I mean, it's like everybody. It was so ridiculous how many dots had to be connected to make this conspiracy theory work. And I said, that there is no conspiracy theory. The evidence points to that she was involved what kind of charges she should have gotten is another matter. However, and they said, what about the incompetence? I'm like, yeah, I see some things that weren't done as well as they could have been done. I see that in a lot of police cases. When you talk about police cases, when you invest, I've looked at so many cases over the last 30 years that, yes, do I see incompetence? Absolutely. A lot of times the training is limited. Detectives become detectives without ever going to detective school. Some of them are really good at their job for whatever reasons. They got good logic and whatever. And some just have none at all. But they're nice guys who do good interviews. They take down information, maybe protect the crime scene, but haven't got a clue as far as crime scene analysis goes. And I've seen just incompetence here and there and everywhere. When families come to me and say, I believe that the police department is corrupt, 9 times out of 10, I will tell them it's not corruption, it's incompetence. That you're seeing some issues that may have affected the case. It's more incompetence. A lot of times it's simply that they don't have the evidence to prove anything, so they just can't solve. They've solved the case, but they can't prosecute the case. So the families don't understand that. So they get all, they're very angry because they want the killer of their loved one to be prosecuted. And the police can't do anything about it because the evidence doesn't exist and the prosecutor won't take the case. So a lot of times it isn't even incompetence. It's just unfortunate, bad luck, and that's the way it goes. But there is a time when there's incompetence. They mean well, but they don't do such a good job. So I usually lean that way. There are some cases I have gone against the police department and said, you are corrupt. So when people say I'm a shill for the law enforcement, no, sometimes I've actually said, you're corrupt. In this case, I think they're corrupt. Somebody's corrupt here. I do not buy this level of incompetence at the highest level for a person, one of the 2 top people they need to protect in this country at this time. I don't buy it for a minute. So now she's throwing local law enforcement on the bus, and now she's going, oh, we made some mistakes and we want to learn from those mistakes. And this is going to all just be a bunch of nonsense going on for the next whatever months. And it'll all fade away. Why? Because it isn't about Democrats and Republicans. It's about what's in the middle. It's about people protecting their political careers. It's about not making trouble where it's going to end up coming back on them. So what we're going to see is this all going to go away. Donald Trump came out of this really well. Joe Biden, not so much. Although now that the convention is over, media is now responding, and people are coming back saying, oh, Joe Biden's not going to resign at the end of the week. He's going to come back, and Donald Trump said a whole bunch of garbage during the convention, and so now we're back to kind of this. Okay, there's going to be a revival of Joe Biden or something like that. Whether we'll see that or not, I don't know. But what do I think? Let me go to the third thing. What do I think would have happened if former President Trump had been assassinated? I think, and this is why I can't actually say who's behind anything if there is somebody behind something. What would have happened? Here is my belief. If I'm looking at the recent events, I believe that Donald Trump may well have been replaced by Nikki Haley, who was not fond of Donald Trump. And neither is a whole group of her people are totally never Trumper type people. Nikki Haley, she is much more toward the middle. She's also highly support of foreign wars and the military industrial complex. And she's kind of plays the game that the many politicians do that are in the middle. Sometimes that's not bad. It's not bad that necessarily that Democrats and Republicans can compromise and work together. I am not against that. But there is that point where she's one that's not going to rock that dang boat that some people don't want rocked. I think she would have been she would have taken Donald Trump's place, Nikki Haley. And I think Joe Biden would have bowed out because he is failing. And Kamala Harris would have taken his place. Now, a lot of people don't really like Kamala Harris. She's not the greatest speaker. She doesn't seem to be terribly bright in a whole lot of ways. Nikki Haley, I think, is much more astute. Not terribly likable either. so, so I think you have two unlikable women on either side vying for the presidency. Now, I personally think that the people in the middle don't care which one won, because both of them would do pretty much the bidding of the middle of everything. So I don't know who would have won if that had, but it would have been a great moment in American history. Where two women are vying for the presidency of the United States. A woman will finally be president, because so many people, wanted Hillary Clinton to be president, the first woman president. She got beat out. And now you can't beat out, you got two women. You can't, one of them is going to win. It's going to be the first female president of the United States. This is media glory. So you have this great opportunity. And no matter who wins, the middle, which is the ones that support a lot of stuff that's been going on in the United States, supporting certain huge corporations and supporting the military industrial complex and all that stuff, either one of these women worked fine. So had Donald Trump actually been killed, I think both sides would have been happy. And when I say both sides, I mean certain both sides, not people who are supporters of Donald Trump, not people who are supporters of necessarily just Joe Biden and not Kamala Harris, but a whole bunch of people in the middle. That's the way political machinations work. And that's the way it's worked through time. It's not what we think down here happens. It's what happens up here. And the regular citizens do not necessarily understand this. So I think that had Donald Trump been killed, it would have worked out well for whoever was behind it. And maybe even the people who weren't behind it would be just as satisfied. So those are my thoughts on this. I hope you enjoyed my analysis. Again, it's not a political channel, but I do, once in a while, there are crimes that they're in the political realm, and people ask me about that, and I usually try to avoid them like the plague. But this is so unique that I was willing to come forward and speak on it. But I hope you've learned from this, and if you like this, please do subscribe to the channel. Please do like the video. Please share, and understand that the rest of all of my stuff on this channel is about many, many different cases. My whole point of the channel is crime scene analysis, criminal profiling, helping detectives learn how to profile better, improving the ability of law enforcement and analysis, and also helping people in regular life understand things like this. So thank you for being here. And I don't know if I'll speak on this again, but we'll see what happens in the future. Bye-bye.